Welcome to the fastest way to get around Disney World. So it is always going to depend on where you're going, where you're staying, and how Disney's transportation is set up for that specific route. So I'm going to break it down by like every type of scenario and let you know what will be the fastest. For a lot of it, it's kind of a toss-up because if a bus just left, for example, from your resort to go to, say, Epcot, you might have to wait 20 minutes for another bus to come. And in that time, it would have ended up being faster to just then go over to your car and drive yourself straight there, because now you're not spending 20 minutes doing nothing. But if you're only waiting like 5 minutes for a bus or maybe even 10 minutes, it could end up taking the exact same amount of time. Also, if you're using any sort of mobility device, so an ECV, a wheelchair, or even if you have like strollers with you, that could also delay your time a little bit more. You might have to wait for another form of transportation, or you need the accommodation for the extra time, and that could determine whether the Disney transportation versus driving yourself would end up taking more time. So there are a few stipulations like that. So just keep in mind for your like specific group and specific scenario as I go through it, and then you'll kind of have a better idea. Okay, so first I'm actually going to start with the times that it's actually faster to drive yourself. So the first one is if you're going to Blizzard Beach. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be faster to drive yourself because they do not currently offer direct transportation to Blizzard Beach unless you're staying at Coronado Springs or the All-Star Resorts. Coronado Springs also includes Gran Destino Tower, by the way, because those are like kind of directly across the street, basically. Those do have direct transportation because they're so close. But if you're staying at any other resort, you have to take the bus to Animal Kingdom. And then once you're at Animal Kingdom, you just move to a bus stop that says Blizzard Beach. And then that just runs back and forth between Blizzard Beach and Animal Kingdom all day long. So that will take some extra time. Parking at the water parks is free, and they're pretty small parking lots too. It is nothing like they're not even big enough to need a tram. So it's actually super convenient to drive yourself to the water parks. So if that scenario fits your scenario, then drive yourself when you go to Blizzard Beach. This also goes for Typhoon Lagoon as well. They do not offer any direct transportation between Typhoon Lagoon and any of the resorts. You have to go to Disney Springs first. And then from Disney Springs, they have a bus that goes back and forth between Typhoon Lagoon and Disney Springs all day long. They're across the street from each other, so it goes pretty quickly. Again, parking is free at Typhoon Lagoon. Parking's also free at Disney Springs. The parking lot's pretty small, so you don't have to factor in like walking time or a tram or anything like that. So there's a few scenarios for this. If you're staying at Saratoga Springs or any of those third-party hotels like the Hiltons or Marriott's there on Hotel Plaza Boulevard, you can actually just walk to Disney Springs. It's all attached. It's right there. So this is kind of nice if you are staying at these third-party ones. It would be free to just park at Typhoon Lagoon anyway, but if you don't like the hassle of driving, you can just walk over to Disney Springs and take a Disney bus. You do not have to be staying on Disney property to take any of Disney's transportation. If you're staying at any of these resorts here, so Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, the Treehouse Villas, and then either the French Quarter or Riverside sides of Port Orleans, you can take a boat to Disney Springs and then from there take the bus. All other hotels, you would just take the bus to Disney Springs because Disney Springs is not on the monorail line, it's not on the Skyliner line, and then this is the only boat line that it has. So that would be something to keep in mind as well if you're going to Typhoon Lagoon. Traveling between some of the hotels and some of the theme parks can be faster to drive yourself. Basically, if it's not on the monorail, Skyliner, or boat routes, then it would be faster to drive yourself. So there's no direct transportation between like Coronado Springs, which includes Gran Destino Tower, all the All-Star Resorts, and like Animal Kingdom Lodge and the Animal Kingdom theme park. So some different scenarios of places, because you could have like a dining reservation at a resort that you're not staying at. So you can't take a bus from like Coronado Springs to All Stars. there's no dining reservations at All Stars, but just as an example, because those are on the screen, there's no bus that will take you between the two, so you'll have to go somewhere else first to get there. So that's kind of what that means. But here's some examples of very specifically when you can just take yourself, whether it's walking or driving yourself. So all the All-Star resorts are attached to each other. There's 3. There's sports, movies, and music. You can walk between all 3 of them. So if you're going from one to the other, just walk. Don't try to like hop a bus. That just doesn't really make any sense. Coronado Springs and Gran Destino Tower are also on the same property. You just walk back and forth between the two. They're on the same little promenade. Any other times that you are going from Coronado Springs or from an All-Star Resort or from Animal Kingdom Lodge to another hotel, it will be faster to drive yourself because there is no direct transportation. So these ones you can walk, but if you want to go anywhere from these to anywhere else, it's faster to drive yourself. You don't have to, it's just faster. What I would do if I was staying at any of these, the nearest theme park is Animal Kingdom. So I would likely just take the Animal Kingdom bus to just get over to Animal Kingdom real quick in like 5 or 10 minutes and then proceed to take a bus to wherever it is that I'm trying to go. Or another option, which I do frequently, is take the first bus that comes within reason. If you kind of understand the layout of Disney, this makes a little bit more sense. So for example, if you want to go from Coronado Springs to dinner at the Grand Floridian, I wouldn't take like the Disney Springs bus just because it's first, because those are some of the 2 farthest points on Disney property. It could take you 30 minutes just to get to Disney Springs, and then you're gonna make a triangle going all the way back up to Magic Kingdom, or to the Grand Floridian because it's over by the Magic Kingdom. So within reason. So I would either take the Animal Kingdom bus because it's the closest first stop, or I would wait for the Magic Kingdom bus and then just walk over to the Grand Floridian, or take the boat to the Grand Floridian, or take the monorail to the Grand Floridian. There's some different things like that to keep in mind so you're not just going back and forth unnecessarily. Here are going to be the times where it's faster to take Disney's transportation. So if you're going to Magic Kingdom, it is always going to be faster to take Disney's transportation unless you are walking from the Contemporary or the Grand Floridian. Those are the only 2 that you can walk from. Technically, you can walk between the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian. So if you're at the Polynesian, you could walk all the way around if you wanted to. I don't recommend it. You'll be kind of tired of your walk by then, but it is possible. And so yeah, so here's why for Magic Kingdom. So the Disney buses and the Disney minivans and the monorail drop you off right at the Magic Kingdom entrance. When you drive yourself, you have to park at the Transportation and Ticket Center, and then you have to take a monorail in, or you have to take the ferry boat in, which just adds extra time. So when you're going to Magic Kingdom, 9 times out of 10, if you just want to take a Disney bus from your hotel, that would be your best option. And then here are some other resort to resort and theme park hopping scenarios where it can be faster to take Disney's transportation. So all these resorts and parks are on the monorail line. So in this case, if you're going from any of these to another one of these, take the monorail. That's going to be the absolute fastest thing to do. Grand Floridian and Polynesian, you can walk between the 2. Contemporary and Bay Lake Tower are attached. You can walk between the Contemporary and Magic Kingdom, Grand Floridian and Magic Kingdom, or just take the monorail. The monorail goes from the Transportation and Ticket Center to Epcot. So if you're at any of these resorts, you take the monorail to the Transportation and Ticket Center first, and then you transfer over to the next monorail to go to Epcot. And it's really quick. The monorail line is very small, so it's very quick and efficient. These resorts here are all on, these resorts and parks are on the Skyliner. So if you're going from one of these to another, the Skyliner is always going to be fastest as long as it's operating. It does go down for refurbishments. It does go down for lightning. So just keep that in mind. But Riviera and Caribbean Beach are actually walking distance between the 2, so you wouldn't have to take anything special. Same with Art of Animation and Pop Century. They are attached by a bridge, so you can walk between those 2 as well. So all of these resorts are also connected to Epcot and Hollywood Studios through the Skyliner. So if you're going between any of these places, you can take the Skyliner. The boats. So the Magic Kingdom area boats connects all of these places together. What's more important is that Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness, they're not on the monorail line, but they are part of the Magic Kingdom Resort area. So if you're going from Wilderness Lodge or Fort Wilderness to any of these other places, or vice versa, taking the boat is going to be the fastest way to get there. Another set of boats is the Disney Springs area. This will cover all the places that I mentioned before. So Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, Treehouse Villas, Port Orleans, that's supposed to say Riverside, and Port Orleans French Quarter are all connected to Disney Springs through the boat. So if you're staying at any of these places and you want to get to another one of those places or to Disney Springs, you can take a boat. If you're going between Riverside and French Quarter, you can walk between the two. They're attached. From Saratoga Springs, you can also walk to the Treehouse Villas. Those are attached. And you actually can walk from there to Old Key West. There's a pathway that goes kind of on the side of a golf course. People don't use it all that often. I think most people don't know it exists, but it is a pathway that guests are allowed to use. I think we only learned about it because we rented bikes from Old Key West one time, and they told us to use that pathway for, areas we could take our bikes around. And so I use that sometimes. Like, there was one, I think it was spring-ish time. I don't think it was quite summer yet. There was a bit of a drought, so they couldn't run the boats from this area because the water levels were too low, because this is I think it's the only natural waterway or something like that. So we just walked from Saratoga Springs to Old Key West, and that was easier and efficient. And then the Epcot area also has boats. So it connects Epcot to Hollywood Studios. And in the middle, you have a cluster of resorts. So there's Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club, Swan, and Dolphin. You can walk between all of these as well. It takes pretty much the same amount of time unless you have kids in your group or wheelchair ECV or something that may slow it down. But the average person or couple or family walking takes you the exact same amount of time as the boat, and then you also don't have to wait for a boat. That's kind of how we determine it. If we can see a boat coming, if we're going from Hollywood Studios to Epcot, if we see a boat coming, then we know it's going to take the exact same amount of time. If you don't see a boat coming, just start walking. It's going to be faster. All the other combinations that were not listed here at all, it would be faster to drive yourself. So some general frequently asked questions for getting around Disney. How long does Disney transportation take? That's a very broad question. It depends on the type of transportation, where you're trying to go. The monorail, a full loop for the monorail takes 15 minutes. You may have delays, stop, but the normal, just regular expected time, 15 minutes to make a full loop. And most of the time you're on the monorail, you're not taking a full loop. You're going from point A to point B, so you should be on it for less than that. The longest bus ride generally would be to go from Animal Kingdom Lodge to Disney Springs. They're on the clear farthest ends of Disney property from each other. That takes about 20 minutes from the bus actually pulling away to the bus actually pulling in. I usually plan 30 minutes for load time and unload time, because sometimes they're waiting for the bus to be full, or sometimes they have to load an EC, things like that. Or sometimes when they get to Disney Springs, they're waiting for a bus spot to open up. So different things like that. Most of the boat routes as well, a full loop of the route takes about 20 minutes. But again, usually you're going point A to point B. You're not taking it for a full loop, so it should take you less time than that. And then same goes for how long it takes to drive around Disney World. Most resorts and theme parks are within about a 10 to 15 minute drive of each other. The farthest distance, again, would be Animal Kingdom Lodge to Disney Springs, which will take about 20 minutes. That's with average traffic. Disney Springs can get more traffic for sure, because there's a lot of lights there. You could also have delays if you're going during marathon weekends. They close different roads because they use it as part of the track. But they do it early in the day, so it doesn't usually affect most people all that much, but there can always definitely be higher traffic times or detours or construction or things like that could make a difference. Park closing times tend to have the most traffic in my experience, so then I would add about 15 extra minutes to get to where you need to go. That's assuming there's no accidents or anything like that. That's just 15 extra minutes because of how many people are leaving. So that's really everything you need to know about the fastest way to get from place to place. I would again consider, if it's not super obvious, I would just consider, if you pull up a map of the property, Again, if you know you're going from Animal Kingdom Lodge to the Grand Floridian, don't come all the way over here to Disney Springs just because it's the first bus. Try to stay kind of in a cluster of area. The bus stops tell you what time the next bus for each place is coming. Sometimes they change because, things are always moving, but you can use that to kind of help gauge. And most of the time, if you're torn between a couple different ones, they probably won't have much more than a 5 or 10 minute overall difference. So I wouldn't stress about it too much. And worst case scenario, either drive yourself, or if you can't, pay for the minivan. It's a Disney cast member that's driving you. They can pick you up to take you directly to where it is you need to go, as long as you're already on Disney property. It only goes from and to places that are on property. So that's something that you can do if you don't want to hop around to places that aren't connected to each other. It's a bit of a splurge, but they fit up to 7 people in them. So for most people visiting, that would be their whole group. And sometimes it can be worth that hassle of, taking 30 to 45 minutes to get to wherever it is that you're trying to go.